Hello, everyone. It's Mara Sievers here, creator of Pilates Encyclopedia, and I'm here today with Kathryn Parker from Carolina Core Pilates in North Carolina. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Mara. Thank you for having me.
Oh, for sure. So we're here today to have an honest conversation about what it's like to be a Pilates teacher, life as a Pilates teacher. So the first question, just why don't you just start by introducing yourself, maybe how you got into Pilates, but also where are you teaching, and what are you teaching? What are you offering in terms of classes, private, if you have some sort of niche or focus area, and so on and so forth.
Excellent. So I got my certification in 2009, pretty unique situation through Appalachian State University. The two individuals there, my mentors and teachers, happened to both be Ramana trained. They saw the way things were going in the industry, or how just lack of opportunity was becoming a real problem. And so through the dance department, they created kind of a separate entity where you had some training in the university. So I'd say at least 2 years of credits, mat classes, equipment classes, a little bit of experience teaching, kind of helping before enrolling in their teacher training program. So it was a 600-hour teacher training program. And I got a job teaching right out of getting my certification in Carborough at Carolina Core Pilates. So we've been in business over 10 years easily. And as I was teaching and just kind of doing some other jobs too, I opened a boutique Pilates studio in Elon. So it's right by the university, Elon University. So I say boutique, meaning only private training. So I had enough equipment, reformer, Cadillac, one-to chair, maybe not fully equipped studio, but certainly a lot of pieces, popular apparatus to use and move. So then in 2016, I took over the commercial studio, Carolina Core Pilates in Carborough, where it's just a bigger operation. We take 4 to 5 individuals in a small group class. There's certainly a lot of private training that happens at our studio too, but it's all very individually tailored.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great. So 2 different spaces. That's a lot of managing, I can imagine.
Well, I'll say it's become a lot more to manage, especially since the pandemic. I have clients that jumped on board virtually right away. And then there's been a shift of people that were ready to re-enter the studio when we were allowed by government regulations to reopen. Now we're trending in the opposite direction. Our numbers are very high, and people are kind of leaning back towards just virtual for the time being. So it's always shifting. So we've definitely been navigating so much this past year. For it all.
Yeah, everybody has, but yeah, good for you for hanging on and making it through.
Thank you.
For sure. So let's change the subject to something more fun. What's your favorite part about being a Pilates teacher?
So much. Quite honestly, there's instant gratification every time I'm teaching. You're empowering someone to move, to feel better, to understand their bodies better, whatever deep personal connection they have to why they came in the first place. There's so much to learn. So I've been teaching over 10 years and I'm still learning as a teacher. I don't think in most professions you can say, oh, this is it. Like I've figured it out. I mean, if you're really passionate about what you're doing, what you're excited about what you're doing, there's always more to learn. And that's with clients, that's from other teachers. I'm in a teacher training program now with Kathy Ross Nash. It's called the Red Thread of Pilates. It's an advanced teacher training program for those that have already been teaching at least 5 years. So there is just the depth, the lifetime of learning that comes with it is, if you're teaching part-time even, you know, there's just so many different things that you can do with that, how far you want to take it in your teaching career.
Yeah. I say curiosity is the key, sort of, right? If you close yourself off to wanting to learn more, then you might not. But if you're curious about, I wonder why this exercise worked with this person, or my cue worked and was effective with this person, but it did nothing for that person. And so if you keep this curiosity and actually try to find an answer to those questions, then it's really, it'll stay interesting for a long, long time.
Absolutely. That's exactly why so much of the equipment was developed. Or, you know, maybe you find that you're stuck with this person, this client, you take them somewhere else, you take them and build them where it makes sense in their bodies, where it feels good in their bodies, then you can take them to other equipment or whatever. And it's just, yeah, it always, there's always more to learn there. Even if you feel like you're stumbling a little bit down the road, it's just part of the natural process. That's why it's a method.
Absolutely. I like what you said. There's two things that popped up for me there. One was you learn one person at a time, really, right? One client at a time. You need that interaction, you need that dialogue between the person that you're working with, not necessarily verbal dialogue, but more like what you cue the person, and they interpret that, what they hear in their bodies, and then you reflect on what happened, and so that's sort of the process, right? Yeah, that's super interesting. I love that too. And I forgot my second point, but it might come back.
That's okay. Maybe I'll touch on one more thing about my favorite part of teaching, is client relationships. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely something they don't really talk about in a teacher training, mm-hmm. But because of the nature of the work, you may end up teaching somebody 4 sessions, 8 sessions, never see them again. You may be teaching people for 10 plus years, and you become some part of their life. I mean, if you're only seeing them 1 time a week, you learn things about them, not just their mannerisms. You learn family stories, you learn business stories of it, you know, just natural things that come up as a part of your trusting relationship. And some of these people feel like family members, and it doesn't happen with every person, but it's a really, really beautiful part of the process that wasn't fully explained just in a teacher training.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. Yes. Versus, I'm just thinking versus like a doctor, or, you know, other people who see the person once, right? And then, but they don't accompany the journey, and we're really along for the journey, for the process, not exactly the result, sort of.
Same type thing when we have pets and we take them to a vet. You know, if they see them and know them as a young puppy, young kitten, and they're with them through that livelihood, they know those things, their personalities. It's the same kind of situation, and then it's very relationship based.
Yeah, that's true. So then what's your least favorite part about being a Pilates teacher?
Day to day, least favorite things are scheduling. You know, if you make a weekly schedule, this is my time, my space, you know I can count on this every week. You know, that's just not always going to be the reality when you're working with people who work, people who have children, like any service industry, all these life things are constantly popping up. So I would say, don't expect to have a routine schedule.
I love that you say that. You should have told me that about 10 years ago. Oh my God, I love that you say that. I'm one of those, I totally admit it. I'm one of those people, when my schedule gets thrown around, I'm like, I cannot deal with it very well. I'm getting better at it. But I think also when you have a tight schedule, it could be maybe worse than right now. My schedule is light, which is good. So I feel I can be more flexible, but when your schedule is tight, then it's like, you know, one thing can you know, it's just it's a layer of stress. But yes, you're so right. I mean, in terms of, don't even expect that things stay the same. If you don't even expect it, you know, then you're much easier going about any changes that happen along the way. I love that.
Exactly. And one thing, I don't know if maybe it was location based or situation based, or just kind of maybe this is natural part of the process. I would assume, because I'm not in a large city, that it took a longer time to build my clientele base. You know, you don't come in with just full schedule. I mean, unless you're becoming a part of a studio that's already very established and they are just looking for the help because the business is already built. So, you know, location to location, it will really vary what workload is available and how much you want to build it and where you want to take it.
Yes, for sure. There is, yes, you can't expect when you start as a new teacher or in a new area, you can't expect starting like having a full schedule from the beginning. It takes years to establish a business and a name in an area, because it's all word of mouth. That's the thing. For a brick and mortar business like Pilates, a physical Pilates studio, it's all about word of mouth. Don't even waste, I tell you, don't even spend any money advertising. It's not worth it. It's just word of mouth, but that word of mouth takes a little bit of time. You need to do good work in the studio. You need to actually help people feel better, and then they will tell all their friends, and then it's automatic.
Exactly. But another probably least favorite point is a little more like life. You're going to have clients that you can't help get better necessarily. So if it's a like neurodegenerative disease, if they've had some sort of accident, just even basic part of the aging process, you know, when you have that established relationship with this client and you see them declining, they're excited to come in and move. They're excited to feel better for that day. They're looking forward to something fun. They're, you know, when you know that you're there and you know that they're better when they walked out the door, that's an ideal goal. And that's pretty much a limitation. So, same thing, kind of tying in the client relationship base to it. When you see these people that you love, adore, you know, maybe admire, and there is a natural declining process. And I've had clients that passed away. You know, there's just kind of a certain point that, you know, that we have our expertise and that's what we focus on.
Yeah, so there's two subjects there, right? One is maybe we don't have, I don't think that's where you were talking about, but it's still, you could think about it that way too. But maybe we as Pilates teachers don't have the skill that actually would help that person more. So that's a matter of like referring out, especially if it's neurological things, or either I need to get trained or I need to educate myself more about this particular subject and learn more and include other techniques maybe in my practice if I have somebody as a regular client and they want to continue and work with me, right? So maybe I can expand my skills. But at the same time, maybe I need to refer out and not necessarily give up, but just collaborate, right, with a physical therapist or a doctor or a neurologist or whoever, to just help that person. And the other aspect, but I think that's important for us to know as Pilates teachers, that it's okay if we don't know. It's totally okay if we don't have a solution, and it's okay to say that. I think I felt a lot of freedom in my own teaching career once I started to say, you know what, I don't know. Like when people ask me, you know, anything that I had no answer for, is like, I just don't know. And I think that in the beginning we might be scared to say that because we feel there's so much we don't know, so we don't want to admit that we don't know. But really, it's a very humanizing thing, and it's honest. And if you truly care, you are going to be honest, and you say, I'm going to try and find out, I'm going to see how we can help you. So but it's okay to say, you know what, I don't know. And the other thing though is the part where you feel, and I felt that that's what you were talking to a little bit, where you feel that you're just managing symptoms. You're not working towards improvement. You're just maybe working towards slowing down the decline or slowing down the aging, the effects of aging and stuff like that. And then you feel like you're standing still so much of the time. There's really nothing happening, but you don't know how it would be if they didn't do Pilates, right?
100%. So yeah, no, both points are so important because if you're able to maybe not advise another avenue that they should explore, but to even just ask them, I've never heard of this condition. Can you explain to me a little baseline? I'd like to go home, do a little reading so I understand what's happening here. All of that, again, part of the curiosity of how it's all connected. Maybe I won't be able to offer this part that can be a part of your whole healthcare, but I want to have these conversations with this physical therapist. Where have you come from? At what point are you at before we get started in a Pilates studio? Yes, 100% to both points.
Yes, and I think clients are different too. I think some, like, so I put myself into the mind of somebody who's a beginning teacher, right? And we get intimidated, like somebody comes with a list of pathologies or something like that, and we get obviously intimidated. But the other thing is that clients care very differently about what they feel, what kind of level of expertise the teacher is supposed to have or should have. Some people, they're fine. They're like, please just move me and this is fine. And you don't need to know everything. And yes, there are other clients who want a higher level of expertise. They know maybe more about their own body already. So they want to talk with somebody who has that same level of knowledge maybe, right? Or so, and that's something that you can notice and sense in the communication. You can also just like openly ask about it. And like I said, if you say that, right? So I just think, like, if you admit, okay, I've never heard about this pathology, can you explain more to me? Then you also realize how the client reacts to it. And you can also say and offer, I'm sorry, I don't have any experience with that. I'm more than happy to educate myself. But if you'd rather work with somebody else, I'll help you find somebody who has more expertise. And then you can let the client decide, right? So you put your cards on the table and you can let the client decide, are they happy to work with you, or would they rather go with somebody else? And I think that's so important because it takes the pressure off of you. Because what you don't want is to start a Pilates relationship, a teaching relationship with somebody where you constantly feel that they don't trust you or they would rather be somewhere else. And it could just be in your own head, but it could not be. But if you just put it out there and let them choose, then you can relax into your position as, and you can do your best job again instead of pressure.
And on the flip side, if you feel like that client isn't a good fit for you, if this is somebody who's maybe not just inquisitive, but a little too aggressive with questions, or, just personalities are not a good click. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons. If you've got somebody who is some sort of energy sucker, it's going to take away from your energy, from your excitement, from your, day in and day out of working with other people.
Yes.
And it's totally appropriate to say, my schedule's full, or you may be a better fit. You may have a better experience, practicing with this instructor, so all of those things in an appropriate conversation are just as important, because you don't want to exert too much energy and work too hard if you're putting a square peg into a round hole that's just not going to fit. It's okay. Some things are just not going to be a good fit, and it has nothing to do with you personally.
Right. Yes. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, if you were to hire a teacher right now, what are and we can put them together into one question, what are the Pilates skills or also the non-Pilates related skills that you would be looking for?
Great question. So generally, all the probably important things, right? The knowledge, accountability, that same curiosity, will to learn. But at this point in my studio ownership, I'm looking for personality. I'm looking for that positive mental attitude, because if there's that will to learn, they can be trained. They can learn more. They can, they can take the time to understand what's happening in the studio. Take the time to understand your policies. Take the whatever it is. At this point, I've had great teachers, bad personality. Clients drop off. You don't know what's happening. So personality, positive mental attitude are my big, big, big things that are, it's just going to make your day or break your day.
I love it. When you say personality, what do you mean? Just being kind, basically kind and curious, or?
Yes. So personality being someone who's motivated, eager, they walk in the room, you're excited to see them.
They want to be there.
They want to be there. They're personable. They have excellent communication skills. It's that you get inspired. You want to move because they're there. You want to stand a little straighter, a little taller, just because they walked in the room. Not even necessarily charismatic, but you don't want the teacher in the room who everybody dreads and everybody's talking behind their back, and you don't want that person that you're, oh no, here we go again. I mean, people are paying good money to see you. That's kind of where I'm getting at, is most importantly the positive mental attitude towards what you're doing to make it a fun experience. Because yes, there's a lot of learning. Yes, there's a lot of strength training. There's a lot of all the wonderful things that come a part of being of what you get out of your practice. But for some people, I was talking to a woman the other day. She started Pilates at 300 pounds. Now, she started with a lot of private sessions. It took her instructor to pull her by the arm and say, look, you're going to join this group class. Like you are ready. You just need the confidence. I mean, some of these more deeper interpersonal things that happen, you're not necessarily taught that skill set within a teacher training program. That's what I mean by personality.
Yeah. Yes, I hear you. I'm thinking words that come up are like maybe maturity a little bit. Yeah. Lovely. Love it.
But to, ultimately be that person that embodies maybe just friendliness. How are you going to empower this person that they feel better, they're more excited, they're lighter, they're lifted when they walk out the door, that they've got to have you next week.
Like you can be the rock, right? The person that makes them feel better. So they want to come because they know they're going to feel better at the end of the day. I love that. Yeah,
exactly.
There is the other thought that I had earlier, I was just remembered, was there's a balance in teaching Pilates between educating and challenging. Maybe challenging is a better word. Challenging and supporting.
Right.
You need to do a little bit of both. You can't just support and babysit and baby people, but you can't just challenge and drill, and right, you have to know when to do what or how much of what and stuff like that. So that's, and it might come with experience, but yes, I think it's also a personality thing, whether you just have it or don't have it a little bit,
because everybody wants to feel successful.
Yes.
And it can be a giant leap, but it can be some very small point. Maybe it feels insignificant, but any of those successes along the way, those are going to be the things that when they leave, they have gained another tool in their toolbox.
I love that you say that. It's so true. I love that, that everybody wants to feel successful. That's why I try to, I made it a rule for myself at one point to mention everybody's name in my class at least once in every class, and just acknowledge the effort, and because yes, it's so true. Everybody wants to feel successful. Yeah.
Right. I want to jump on that because that just that train of thought, it is so important, whether you mention their name or you kind of get this learning, maybe nonverbal learning, when people like touch. Some people do not like touch, and you need to know that or have a conversation about it before you put your hands on someone. But to even like a lot of my group classes, I may just stop and we have conversation. So more theory, that as they're practicing, they can think, oh, here's my purpose, right? Or here's my point of stability. Like, now I get it. Now I understand the action that I'm asking of my body. And that's so helpful because classes, at least in our studio, you find like there's just a more certain sense of flow than it is being so individually tailored to that particular individual. So it's absolutely okay to just have those conversations, because when your client's mentally engaged, when they're bringing their physical practice into it, you're just building on their building blocks and their layers of understanding.
Yeah, it's mind body, right? It's the mind that shapes the body. We have to know what we're doing in order to be able to do it.
Exactly.
It's lovely, wonderful, I love it. So last question, what do you wish you had known before you started your teacher training journey, before you became a teacher?
You know what? This is the hardest question. Because
You're welcome.
If I had told myself the things that I know now, I probably would have never done it and not be a teacher. So different. To become a teacher was absolutely one of my most important life decisions ever, ever, ever. It was not my original idea. It was my teachers who encouraged me to do it. Same thing for becoming a studio owner. Not my original idea, but I pursued it. And then buying a studio, that was a whole nother separate, not my original idea, but so as far as just becoming a teacher, if it is nothing but personal enrichment, it's still one of the best life decisions for me that I really needed, on a physical level, on a mental level. See, I was in college at the time, and just noticing it was helping my reading comprehension so much. It's like, well, this neuro part right. So there's just so many benefits to becoming a teacher. The more you teach, the more you kind of learn the things that work for you, where you want to take it, what you want to do with it. And then studio ownership is an entirely different conversation. Yes, I think so many of us get into becoming studio owners just because we want to help people. We see the need, we see it growing, but there's also a lot to learn on the business side of things.
Also, I think often because there is no place where you could get hired, or that. Then there's a whole other subject where sometimes teachers think they can do better on their own. That's a whole other subject, and I talk a lot about this in other places. We don't have to get into it, but yes, often you become a teacher and there is no studio where you could go and get hired, so you have to sort of open your own studio, in whatever form that is. But I have to ask the question again, so because it was not clear to me. So what is it that you wish you had known before you started?
Honestly, maybe just the tip about client relationships.
Okay.
Not to go back and, warn myself of, oh, there's all these things that are going to come up, or, in my personal experience, I felt like I was handed a lot of clients that had issues that I really didn't know much about. Mm-hmm. I knew sort of my limit of where I could start them within the Pilates method and then grow them. But I didn't really know a lot about, I wasn't handed a bunch of athletes to work with. I was handed this one who had chronic vertigo, this one who has Parkinson's, this one who whatever the conditions are, I felt like I wasn't always getting just a healthy human body coming in the door. And it's okay, right? Kind of back to the same conversation we were having earlier. It's okay to open those conversations with your clients. Have them again and again. Hey, I remembered, you know, the ankle injury from 10 years ago. You know, it's not anything you have to harp on, or when you watch them moving, you don't want to say, oh, look at that ankle. But to, you know, just to, you know, it's okay to not know certain things. It's okay to say, I really don't know what to do here. Why don't we change gears and do some of this? You know, let's maybe just focus on opening your chest. Why don't we spend time just focusing on how to breathe? Whatever it is, you can always take them to a level where they're going to learn something, they're going to feel something. Yeah. You know, to keep them moving, keep them exploring. Yeah, it's okay to not know and be able to provide an excellent service for them.
Yes, and I love that you bring that up, because I think that's why I am, it's so important to me that somebody who starts the journey of becoming a Pilates teacher is prepared for the exact situation that you just mentioned, because I think that's the reality. A lot of people seek out Pilates because they've heard from other people that it helps with certain issues, or that they can do it even though they have low bone density or spondylolisthesis or scoliosis or whatever, right?
Right.
So the reality is that you as a Pilates teacher, you will get people like that. You will. If you're teaching CrossFit or I don't know what, some kind of, you know, if you're a personal trainer, maybe you won't. You might get people who are already healthy and fit and they just want to get fitter, right? In Pilates, very often that's not who you'll get. And that's in the nature of the technique. The fact that it's so adaptable, the fact that you can modify it in a million ways to suit everybody. Yes, you can also make people fitter. And yes, you can also challenge athletes and cross-train athletes, but probably more than that, or get like 20 somethings in college who just want to work out and get some tight abs. Yes, you get that, but you get a lot more probably of people who have some kind of physical issue that they need help with. So I think that any teacher training program really needs to prepare you for that, at least. And a teacher training program cannot prepare you to know everything, because that would take forever and nobody wants to be in school forever, at least not initially.
But common ones like scoliosis is very common.
Yeah.
And often people may not necessarily know that they have scoliosis.
Yes, yeah.
If it's not a pain point for them, but just a life condition, they're not coming to you for pain relief.
Right.
So I'm sorry.
And no, you're totally right. And the same thing with osteoporosis, right? If you work with older clientele, and my studio was in New Hampshire, and we definitely had a lot of older clientele. I mean, every other person has low bone density. So it's right. It's just, the reality. And you don't have to know every little detail. You just have to know your starting point in the beginning. You just got to know, okay, so low bone density, what do I know? Okay, let's just start neutral. Let's just start neutral and extension, and I'll worry about the rest later, right? That's sort of the starting point. And then it can develop over time to add whatever you want to add in terms of level of education. But yes, no, you're so right. That's, be prepared for working with not just healthy people.
Right.
Yes. And that's wonderful. So actually, I think that gets me nicely into our teacher training program. So we have recently partnered in the Pilates Encyclopedia teacher training program, which I'm super excited about. And if somebody's interested in finding out more information about that, go to pilatesencyclopedia.com/teacher-training. And if they want to get in touch with you, Kathryn, how can they find you?
Great question. CarolinaCorePilates.com is our studio website. My email address is the same, CarolinaCorePilates@gmail. You can find me on the web, Kathryn Parker. My home studio here is Pure Pilates NC. But yeah, I mean, any of those avenues will.
That's great. I'll put all of those avenues into the description below the video. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you get notified when we have a new video out. And also stay tuned for more of these conversations with Pilates teachers to shed some clarity and have some authentic conversations about what it's like to be a Pilates teacher, which is good and bad, and but awesome. Awesome at the end of the day.
Absolutely enriching.
Lovely. Yeah. It was so lovely to talk to you.
It's so lovely to talk to you again, Mara. Thank you for having me once more.
You are very welcome. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you'd like to see more cool information, head over to pilatesencyclopedia.com. I'll see you next time.